How do you evaluate product?
I validate that I'm differentiating in a way that matters to the customer.
Will you recommend the sellers to 100% to have the design patent in place?
I think it's important to protect your business in some way with intellectual property.
How do you tackle that scenario to build a brand?
Most people don't know their customer. They are data focused and they go, cool.
You exited the brand, right, last year. What all things helped, for that exit?
eCommerce Squeezed podcast.
Welcome to eCommerce Squeezed. My name is Sebastian, founder of Retail-Outsource, and today we have a very special guest. It's been really hard. I've been trying to get her for months, literally. So finally we have her, Amy Weiss, on our podcast. She is an all-rounder. You talk about brand, she's the one to go ahead. You want to talk about sourcing or TikTok or anything, she is the person that we need to speak about. And we are going to cover a few different topics on this episode. But first of all, I need to welcome Amy Weiss and let her give us a basic explanation of what she did and how she became what she does. Welcome to the show,
Thank you so
Amy.
much for having me. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy podcasts. Early on when I first went full-time into e-commerce, I had my own podcast called the Seller Roundtable. And, it was one of my favorite things to do every week because it really forced me to sit down and learn. So I like being the one interviewing as well, but it's always fun to share. And people reach out to me all the time and tell me that they heard me on a podcast or they watched something on YouTube that I was on and I really helped them. And so that for me is really rewarding and why I love to take the time to be part of others. That's just like they took the time to be part of mine when I got started. So a little bit about me. I am a military veteran and a mom. I spent 20 years of my life in the U.S. Air Force. So what the heck am I doing in e-commerce? Who knows? But I invented a product for cats. It was a litter box cleaner, and that kind of took me on a journey. And I started selling on Amazon in 2007 as a hobby, flipping my textbooks. I was selling on eBay as well back then. I had my own Etsy store over the years. So when it came time to invent my own product and launch my own brand, I knew that I could launch it on these e-commerce channels, especially Amazon. And I just kind of went out on a quest to do that. But there wasn't a lot of information out there about how do you develop a unique product? How do you do something from scratch? Like there was plenty of courses to go on Alibaba and find a product and source it and sell it, but there was nothing to really help me. And so I said, hey, people bring products to market all the time. It can't be this hard. I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to share with people. And before I knew it, I had people asking me to consult with them. I was still working full time at my Air Force job. That was not really my plan. But we say we have plans and sometimes the universe, God, have other plans for us.
Correct.
Here I am. Here I am today and I have Amazing at Home e-commerce consulting and we're Amazon and TikTok partners, as Joseph mentioned, and we just love to help around the world. We also host events. We host China trips to the Canton Fair. We host trade shows in Latin America and the Middle East. We host conferences and growth events for sellers, and I also speak at a lot of events around the world. And so just so happy to be here, and I feel super humbled to even be considered as any sort of expert on any of these subjects.
That's great. You have a big line, being just on the Air Force, it's a big thing that will give you the basic, the kind of schedule, doing it in a certain way and very organized way. So, if you have a military background, my father was in military, so I know exactly, how strict he was basically to wake up in the morning and doing a walk after dinner and stuff like that. So I think you have that in your life. Right? So my first question will be, you mentioned about product evaluation, right? Normally people just go to, Helium 10 and check if it's selling well and, if it fits certain criteria and they will just do it. What's wrong with that?
Well, I think that utilizing software is smart because there's all this data available to us. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's just one step in product validation. And it's very, very important to be able to answer the question, why will someone buy this product from me and not the competition? Because if you cannot answer that, if your answer is, well, I'm going to run advertising. Okay, well, everyone else is going to run advertising too, and that's going to get expensive. And do you have the margin for that, right? If your answer is, well, I'm going to have more reviews. Okay, well, that's tough. If your answer is, well, I'm going to have a lower price. Well, good luck on your race to the bottom. So that's the hard part, right? We can all find products that might have low competition and high demand, but the thing is there's millions of sellers in the marketplace, and if all of us are looking at the same software and all of us are launching the same products, by the time you launch that product that you saw on Helium 10, that you're like, oh, there's like no competition, it's great, I can make a profit. Now all of a sudden there's hundreds of sellers selling basically the exact same thing. And something that you need to understand about Chinese sellers, which comprise, I think, something like 80% of sellers are now Chinese sellers, is that they have a different strategy. They're able to get money from their government, and they are not afraid to lose a significant amount of money at launch and beyond. So you're competing against someone who doesn't care if they lose money, whose strategy is to get in the market at the lowest price possible and get as many reviews as they can and sell. Some of them even have six-figure budgets for loss, for investment. So if you're going to sell a competitive product like that and you have nothing protecting your brand, you don't have a patent, you don't have any kind of trade dress, you have not differentiated this product in any way that's protectable,
True.
That's your fate. And that's why most sellers fail, most new startups fail is because they're not thinking about that. And so I always ask people, tell me why somebody's gonna buy it from you and not somebody else. And then also, why would someone buy your business at the end, right? Like, how are you going to be profitable with this product? Because if you go to sell your business and you're just selling a bunch of products that I can source myself, if I'm good at Amazon, where is the brand equity? How do you own a portion of the market? So I think it's just very smart to think about how are you serving the customer and ensure that you have really profitable, great margins, ensure you have IP and the ability to protect your business and control your competition and your price. That is really, really key. I invented a product and I was able to keep the price at $50 from 2017 when I launched it all the way to 2024 when I sold my company.
Wow.
And I started at $42 and I creeped up to $50, but I didn't have any competition. And my product solved the problem that other products were not solving. So I was able to control the price. I was not competing on price and reviews, and my product life cycle was much, much longer. So that is my answer to people. I think data is super important. I can look at other products, how they're selling, and you should absolutely do that. But think about how are you actually validating your product ideas and why are you going to sell more than your competition at a profitable margin?
Great. That's a very detailed answer, Amy. Amy, my next question is kind of a follow-up from the question. So how do you evaluate product? Most of us, for example, will have ideas, product ideas. So this might work well, there's a demand for that. So we'll all have ideas, right? How do you validate it? If it's worth investing in that project, for example, or product?
Well, I start with that question. Why will somebody buy from me and not the competition? So I look and do a competitive analysis. And then I also I validate that I'm differentiating in a way that matters to the customer. So a lot of people will differentiate. I always use the example of toiletry bags because those are like, people are like, well, I had one client that came to me and they said, well, I developed a toiletry bag that has YKK zippers. People in bad reviews, they were complaining about how these toiletry bags had zippers were breaking. And I said, okay, you paid more for this zipper. You are going to use premium materials for this toiletry bag, but who is on Amazon, when we're looking at keywords and data, who's searching for toiletry bag with a better zipper? No one.
True.
No one's searching for a toiletry bag with a better zipper. People expect quality. They expect it. It's not like I'm going to read your listing and even their images were focused on like the zipper. Like they were calling out that the zipper was great. And I'm like, if I'm the customer, I'm going, why are you telling me about the zipper? Of course your zipper's great. Like, I hope it's great. You launched a product. Like, I wouldn't expect the zipper to break. So that's the thing is, if you're gonna differentiate, you have to look at the competitive landscape of the market. Now, this person was trying to sell this premium toiletry bag for around $60 when the top seller in the market had kind of a vintage looking toiletry bag. It was a Chinese seller, and the price of the top selling toiletry bag was $14. When we looked at premium toiletry bags, the ones that were in the $60 and $70 range, the sales were very low. So, but this seller they said, well, I want to sell more. I want to sell this toiletry bag at $14 is selling 1,000 units a month. Why can't I get to 1,000 units a month? And I say, well, this is not your closest competitor. Your closest competitor is the one selling for $70, and they're not selling much. If you wanted to compete with the $14 one, you needed to look at their price and you got to make it easy for the customer. If you come in at 98 cents and they're at $14 and yours has a better look, it has a better feel, it's cool, and you just made it easy for the customer to make that decision. Of course they're going to choose you. But if you're trying to compete with the top seller in the space and your idea is, I'm going to differentiate on quality. Quality is expected. So that's the thing is you really have to think about who am I competing with? Like look at your competitive landscape. Who am I competing with? If you want to take on that $14 toiletry bag, then take on the $14 toiletry bag. Figure out a better way. Maybe you make it out of a waterproof material that is also cheap, but really you can offer it at that price, but you've differentiated in a different way. And then to take that even further, how do you prevent knockoffs? So if I decide I'm gonna take on the $14 toiletry bag and I'm gonna make mine out of a waterproof material and I'm gonna add some additional pockets on the inside to add benefits, how do I protect that? Do I do a design patent? Do I use trade dress? How do I protect it? Because trust me, the guy who's selling it at $14, he's willing to come down to $13.99 to compete with me, and he's willing to copy me exactly on his next version. And he's got more reviews than me, and he's going to put his product out. I'm assuming he's a he. It could be a she. There's a lot
yeah, of course.
Powerful female entrepreneurs. But you really have to think about that. What is protecting your business? Why is the customer going to choose yours and not the competition? And truly look at your competitive landscape and understand who your closest competitor is and how you're going to dominate the market over them.
That's great. And you mentioned about a design patent and trademark, right? So will you recommend the sellers to like 100% to have the design patent in place? And if yes, is that just like for the US marketplace, or do they have to do it in the European, for the future reference before maybe the Chinese register in the European marketplace? So how do you play in that scenario?
I think it's a tough, one of the main things, because I'm an inventor and, I'm on the inventors board of my local inventors group and, I work with inventors a lot. It's hard to tell. I think it's important to protect your business in some way with intellectual property, but it's very important to understand what is worth protecting. So, in the case of the waterproof toiletry bag, right? Let's just keep going with this example. We have to look at how protectable is it. So what I usually encourage my clients to do is, first of all, there are patent attorneys and then there are patent agents. Patent attorneys and patent agents both have had the same training in terms of how to write an effective patent, a defensible patent. The difference is, a patent agent cannot litigate. They're not an attorney. They're not a lawyer. They haven't passed the bar, right? But in the beginning, when you're trying to build a defensible product, you don't care if you can litigate. You care if it's protectable. So what I tell people when they're starting to develop a product, so, okay, we've gone down the path now. We know there's an opportunity in this $14 toiletry bag. We know we can do it for the same price with a different material that we've now validated matters to the customer. And we're going to add some additional pockets. Like, it's cool, like whatever, right? We're ready. We're ready to go. We've validated we can source it for better pricing. We have margins. We know what keywords we're going to use. We're there, right? But before we move forward with actually sourcing that product, and also you don't want to give your design ideas to a supplier before you've been able to protect it. So the next step before you move forward, even with getting a sample made anything or doing a prototype, anything like that, is have a conversation with a patent agent or a patent attorney. Because what they're going to be able to do is they're going to be able to look at the landscape of IP, and they're going to be able to go, you know what? Really, these claims have already been made, and we can protect the design. Like, we can show that this design is made out of a waterproof material, and it's this shape. But there's literally your competitors. Now, I'm just making this up, right? I'm not the patent attorney. I'm not the patent agent. I'm just telling you what might happen based on my experience working with thousands of people helping them launch products, right? So what they might say is, we could design patent it, but your competitor could just change one thing, the placement of one zipper, and now they also have a waterproof bag with pockets, and you spent all this money doing a design patent for nothing. So it's very important to understand what your options are. Now, what that patent attorney, patent agent could tell you, though, on the other hand, is they could go, well, this is interesting. This expired patent uses Velcro in this way that nobody else is doing right now, and it has the following benefits. And you could do that. You could add that to your design, and now not only is it more defensible, but it's also an added benefit to the customer. Right? So you can learn about design options that are going to be even more effective for your customer and for your business to defend it. So if it's not defensible, right? If it's just not really worth it to do the design patent, that's okay. If you've already identified that this is a great product and that you're going to have margins and that you have differentiated in a way that matters to the customer, then what you do is you copyright all of your images, your listings, your images. You can also use what's called trade dress. And what that does is anybody who copies you, because these copycats are blatant, they will straight up just blatantly copy like the likeness of all your images, everything. So that is a very inexpensive way to provide some protection. Additionally, wherever you're sourcing from, let's say it's not patentable, it's not really worth the patent, so you're going to copyright, you're going to make sure you use trade dress, whatever, talk to an attorney. There is a company called ESCA Legal. They're really great about trade dress and other ways to protect your products. But in terms of like, what else can I do to protect it? Contracts with your suppliers are very, very, very important. So in China, if I have a cool, unique, innovative idea for a waterproof toiletry bag and I give the supplier all of my designs, everything, my brand name, everything, and I have zero contract with them. I have nothing saying that they shouldn't compete with me. I have nothing saying that they shouldn't bring my designs to their next Canton Fair booth trade show and show it to the world. I have nothing saying they can't distribute my design to all of the trading companies that they work with. And now those trading companies put your product on Alibaba and everywhere else. If I'm not smart enough to use a Chinese attorney, not a US NDA, that does nothing for you. Do not use templates. Use an actual Chinese attorney or an attorney in whatever country you're sourcing from, and ensure that you're following the laws of that country. But before you give them your designs, your brand name, everything, you need a contract. Because that contract is going to now tell that supplier, oh, wow, I can't just show this to anyone. Now, if you ask them to sign an NDA or some US based or UK based contract, they're going to sign it blindly. And oh, by the way, signatures in China don't mean anything. Okay, sure, I'll sign that. They'll probably sign it with their English name, which has nothing to do with their Chinese name or their company. Your contract means nothing. And I've been through a lawsuit in China with a supplier of mine.
Wow. Okay.
I know these processes. And guess what protected me? My contract that I had. So, and my attorney who made sure, because the thing in China, contracts must be signed with a red seal. They can't, there's no signature. It's a red seal. And that red seal is probably in Chinese and you can't read it. So even if they sign it, a lot of times they'll sign it with a blue stamp that is their import-export company in Hong Kong. So therefore, even if you have a contract, you got a template from some guru and you give it to your supplier and they're like, yeah, sure, I'll sign it. They stamp it with this official looking blue stamp. It's their import-export company in Hong Kong. Therefore, when you go to sue them, you're not actually suing the company in China. You're suing a third-party money holder in Hong Kong, which has nothing to do with, they didn't make your products. You got nothing. There's nothing you could do. So a simple contract, maybe that contract cost you $1,200 to $1,500 in the beginning, because what is that attorney going to do? That attorney is going to vet that company, make sure they are who they say they are, which in China is not always the case. In any country, it's not always the case, right? They're going to vet the company. They're going to make sure they're not in any financial trouble and they can actually be held to a contract. They're going to write up the contract in your best interest based on the scenario at hand. So, hey, dude, I can't patent this, but it is a cool design. I'm going to use trade dress. I'm going to use copyrights. I need something that says they're not going to add it to any trade show. They're not going to distribute it to anybody. Mine and people who walk through the factory don't get to see it, right? Cool. That's sufficient protection. So they're going to write up the proper contract for you according to Chinese law, and then they're going to take one step further. They're going to look and make sure that when that supplier signs it, that it's actually their company that signed. And if they didn't, which I can tell you, Joseph, every single company, every single contract I've ever done in China, and I've done a few, every single one was signed incorrectly.
Really? Wow. Is that deliberately or?
I have no idea. I have a policy in my life. I always assume the best. I assume they made a mistake and they really didn't know, because they probably don't sign a lot of contracts. Honestly, most sellers that I work with, they have no idea. They come to me after they've been knocked off 50 times, when they have no margin because they didn't know how to source products to begin with. They've given all their designs to their supplier. They have zero contracts. That's when sellers come to me. I don't run ads. I'm all word of mouth. So people come to me and I help them solve these problems, and we launch new products with new policies and new ways of doing things. But I hear the same sob story every time. These are all preventable things. We can launch a profitable, protected business from the very start with some very simple steps that we take.
That's great. And you mentioned about differentiating. Right? So let's take an example of branding and building a community. So let's start with the branding side. So how do you tackle that scenario to build a brand? What all tools or what all methods you have in your basket that you use?
Well, I think one free service that I offer is a free listing review, and this is where you can go to my website amazingathome.com and you can click on free listing review, and you can give me your Amazon listing or your TikTok listing, whatever. And I will literally make a video for free, no strings attached, because I just love this stuff. It's fun for me. I'll share my screen and I will tear apart your listing, and I will tell you exactly what I think. And you can tell me in the review, like, hey, what's working, what's not. So back to your question about branding. Most people don't know their customer. They are data focused. And they go, cool, I'm gonna launch a toiletry bag that's like this other toiletry bag with a better zipper. And are customers looking for that? Who buys these toiletry bags? Is it for a husband and then the wife buys it for it? Is it for a girl? Is it for a boy? How old are they? What do they care about? What kind of traveler is it? Is it for the everyday traveler? Is it for the person who takes trips to China? Who is it for? When it comes to buying is a psychological process. And when, I was in Dan Martell's SaaS Mastermind, and he says every website, every page is a 24/7 sales machine for you, or it's not, right? And the minute a customer comes to your page, whether it's your Amazon listing or your landing page, We can do the same thing for Retail-Outsource. We can look at your landing page, your homepage, and I can identify the answer to this question. Is this for me? That's the question a customer is asking when they land upon your page. And they are gonna go look, they're visual. We humans are visual. We wanna feel connected to something. We wanna understand, we wanna answer the question, is this for me? So the next mistake that people make is they put all the stuff in the listing. They write it in the listing. And then their pictures are just kind of like copies of their competitors instead of walking them through the buying process and the decision-making process inside of your images. Take them on a journey. Show them that it's for them, because the first thing they're gonna do is click through your images. And if you didn't answer their questions, or they're confused about what comes with the product, or why they should buy it, what's special about it, if you haven't answered their questions and they think it's gonna break or whatever, they're just gonna move on. There's thousands of other products on Amazon.com. Why choose yours, right? So, and the answer I get from a lot of sellers is, well, it's in my listing. Okay, but you already lost me. You had like 10 seconds of my attention and you already lost me, and I was confused, and I just scrolled down and I saw another one, and this one's on sale and it has more reviews. Cool, let me buy this one. So that's the thing. If you don't know who your customer is, you don't have a brand. You're not speaking to anybody. All you're trying to do is compete based on data instead of competing based on connection. There's a reason on TikTok that certain videos convert. And we do TikTok analysis of all of our creator videos, and we will put them into AI, we'll put the transcript into AI, and we'll say, why did this one generate 50,000 in revenue? And this one from the same creator, none. And every single time it's no personal angle, too broadly focused, right? Like no actual problem that we're solving, whatever it is. So the point is, your brand is set up to serve a customer. You're not Nike. You need a quality product, and you need communication that speaks to your avatar. And you need a product that is communicated in a way that makes the customer feel like they've made a sound buying decision. So even if I'm selling, and last night on my inventors meeting, I had the inventor of Hydro Flask on my inventors meeting. That was just absolutely fascinating. So I'm so grateful to Travis, because he went to China and figured this out and developed this technology, and now I get my ice cold cup that I'm drinking from right now. If now these are a dime a dozen, right? Like there's a million companies that are making these double wall vacuum sealed cups, right? But if I am one of the brands and I know who's buying this exact product, I know who buys the tall tumbler with the straw. I know it's the lady who works from home, who wants to keep her, whatever. Like, if I know that, all of my images, they're going to speak to her. They're going to tell her, yes, it fits in your cup holder. Yes, it keeps your coffee warm when you forget about it. And then you're going to make her giggle, and she's going to be like, yes, this is the one. This is the one I need to buy. They know me, right? So that's the thing. Even if I'm selling the exact same product as 20 other brands, if I do a better job of connecting with the customer and understanding my customer, now I have what's called a brand. Why? Because now when the person who bought this and felt connected to it, when I look at this, I'm gonna go and I tell my friends, they're like, hey, that's a nice water bottle. I will tell my friends, oh my gosh, yes, it is. I love it. They totally understand me. It's not you, it's this one. You gotta get this one. Bubba. You need the Bubba one. You can't have anybody. And that's how you drive branded search. That's how you become a brand. You connect with the customer. Even if you're selling the same product as everybody else, when you understand your customer and you communicate with them and connect with them, now, whether you're selling a product or a service, you are a brand, because you're serving them in a way that other people are not, and you're understanding them in a way that other people are not.
That's very detailed explanation, Amy. Yeah, that's very nice. You put it correctly, exactly. My next question will be, you exited the brand, right, last year. What all things helped, for that exit? If you go back and if you say, should have done it differently, certain points, always there will be some points, right? So what all those points will be? So if you are starting from scratch, for example.
Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. Honestly, first of all, I want to tell you that mistakes are okay. I made a ton of mistakes. I made $20,000 shipping mistakes. I screwed up settings. I screwed up. I used to package and ship all my own products because at least my non-China made products, my invention was made in the USA. And then I had other products that were made in China. But for my made in the USA products, USA companies do not like to package. They're not China. They do not like to package and kit your products. So we did all of that ourselves. So every single, millions of dollars in sales, every single unit was personally packed and shipped by my family in the US. There were times I left parts out of the box. I didn't, I made tons of mistakes. And I was in business with my ex-husband. He made tons of mistakes. Mistakes happen. It's part of business. One thing that my broker told me, so I went through Quiet Light to sell my business. I love them. They're so good. But I remember Chuck telling me, he said, Amy, because I was getting ready to sell and I said, okay, should I fix all my listings? Should I make everything pretty? And he was like, Amy, selling a business is not like selling a house. You don't want everything to be perfect and painted white and blank slate and ready for move in. You want some things to be wrong. If everything looks beautiful, a potential buyer is going to come in and they're going to go, okay, the listings look perfect. Everything looks good. There's nothing for me to improve here. Why aren't the sales more? You want them to see something to improve. Now that's not to say what matters and what I learned working with website closers a few years before I was ready to exit. And this is my second tip. Have a talk now. Don't wait until you think you're ready to sell your business to have a talk with a broker. Have a talk now. What website closers taught me a few years before I sold my business is they said, you're not tracking your numbers properly. You don't have month over month unit economics. I had no idea. I was like, what are unit economics and how do I do what? So they showed me how to actually track every unit, every product in my business on a month-to-month basis. And the other thing I was doing wrong is I kept trying to revive my slow losers instead of focusing on my profit, winners, the ones that my best sellers, the things I could expand easily. I was focused on, okay, this product is pretty much end of life cycle. I got 1,000 units of extra inventory. What can I do? Okay, this month I'm gonna put it on sale. I'm gonna run extra PPC on it. I'm gonna do this or that. And I'm not just I'm making fun of myself, but also I gotta make fun of some other sellers out there because
I think we all do that
on consulting calls, guys. We all do it. We wanna fix things. We wanna revive. But who cares? Put that sucker on sale, fine, whatever, but focus on your big winners. Focus on expanding what you can sell so that month over month, because what that buyer's gonna do, once they look at your business and they see some potential and you have decent profit margin, they're gonna look at your financials during the due diligence period. And they're gonna look month over month and they're gonna go, have you improved? Or is this have you peaked and there's just downwards from here? And so you really want to make sure that you're showing steady growth, and that you are not just lazy, not paying attention, and you're going to have to explain every single time when sales were low. You're going to have to, and so what I did is I had a spreadsheet of unit economics where I would track month over month, and when I had lower profit on a product during a month, I would put a little comment in there. I would say, we actually ran out of stock for half the month and we were trying out a new PPC technique, which advertising cost us more, right? So then I knew if there was a dip in profitability, there was a reason for that. And so that's okay. Again, buyers understand that business owners make mistakes because they themselves have probably bought businesses and grown them and exited them themselves. So there's nothing wrong with mistakes, but there is something wrong with not measuring, because what gets measured gets managed, right? So measuring month over month your unit economics, and then talk with the broker from the very beginning. When you start your business, develop relationships with brokers. It doesn't cost you anything. They're going to help you understand how to have a sellable business from the very beginning. So yeah, that's what I would do.
Great. And you visit China, right? You mentioned twice a year for a boot camp. Could you explain, who is it for and how people or sellers can benefit from it?
Yeah, thank you for asking me about that. I went to China for the first time. China has this trade show. It's called the Canton Fair. It is the largest trade show in the world. It is massive. There are 80,000 suppliers in a space the size of 4 large airports. It is unfathomable. I went for the first time in 2018, and I actually brought sellers with me at that time. I said, guys, I'm going to China. If you want to come with me, let's do it. And I didn't, pretend to be an expert or anything like that. That trip changed my life and my business. Why? Well, you don't know what you don't know until you go. When you go into an environment where you don't just have Chinese suppliers, but you have suppliers from all over the world in one building, and they're bringing products that are really innovative that they haven't released to the market. You're going to see products that only sell in the UK, only sell in Japan, hello? Like, it is incredible. The opportunities you're missing. Yeah, you can go on Alibaba and search for some products. I love Alibaba. I'm an Alibaba ambassador. I love Alibaba. They're great. It's a great way to search for suppliers in China. When you go to the Canton Fair, you will see so many suppliers that aren't even on Alibaba. You'll see products that you didn't even know existed. And it is a game changer. So now when I have 10 suppliers, so I used to sell floor mats, right? And I was sourcing them from a supplier I found on Alibaba. Nothing wrong with that. I was profitable. It was good, right? Fine, cool. Alibaba made it possible for me to launch my business. Great. But when I went to China and I went to the Canton Fair, I found at least 10 suppliers who were selling that type of product, who were manufacturing that type of product. And they had designs and processes that I couldn't even find on Alibaba. They were printing on these mats. So now I had the ability for my floor mats to have color and designs that no one else on Amazon US had. And there were multiple suppliers. And oh, by the way, Joseph, I was paying around $8 per unit. And these quotes that I got on the trade show floor were around $2 per unit. With the printing.
Crazy.
Hello, how much did that change my business? Now I had products my competitors didn't have. I could do different designs. I was paying nothing compared to what I was paying before. When people sign up and join us on the trip, most of their suppliers, because we help them also try to visit their suppliers, most of their suppliers immediately drop their price. Why? Because they know they're coming to China and they're about to see the Mecca. And it's just insanity. I don't care if you come with me to Mexico, you come with me to Jordan. I don't care where you're sourcing from. You have to go to China. If you don't go to China, you don't know. You have no idea. You're blind. You're blind to the capabilities. You're blind to your competition. A trip to China will pay for itself 40 times over again. I mean, we've had people save $90,000 on one order with their supplier after coming. It's just I can't describe it. So I love China. I think you gotta go. It doesn't matter. Again, like I said, I was looking for some cool motorcycle clothing because, the options in the US are kind of crappy. So I was looking for some suppliers, and at the Canton Fair, not only did I find Chinese suppliers that could make these products, but I also found Pakistani suppliers at the Canton Fair in China. The other thing that happens when you come to China with us is we also do some unique things. So we take you on factory tours, and these are not factory tours for you to source from these factories. I mean, you can if you want to, but we're teaching you're seeing how things are made. We're teaching you what you're supposed to look for when you walk through a factory. What kind of things should you pay attention to? If that supplier says that they're ISO 9001 certified, what does that mean when you're walking through their factory? What kind of things should you ask to see? I have had so many sellers not even realize that their supplier doesn't even make their product. They're getting a product from a supplier, they've asked for certain specs, and that supplier makes that product for them. But when they go visit the factory, they're like, wait, you don't actually have these tools. You don't actually have these machines. What's going on? This actually happened to me. And the supplier was like, yeah, we don't have that capability in this factory. We actually source your products from another factory. So, and what do you think? Why do you think you're paying more then?
Yeah.
So understanding what your suppliers make, how they make it, why they make it, all the opportunities that are available, what you should be looking for. And then it's a complete game changer. It's one of the examples that I always give recently is we had Amit Rosenthal from ProBox, which is a shipping company. They sponsored one of our China trips, and Amit's been to China a million times. Like, he's a freight forwarder. That's what he does, right? So he's been to China a bunch of times. He has lots of relationships in China. He had never been to the Canton Fair. So he's like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm excited to kind of check it out, right? But he's been to China a million times, so we just assumed, like, kind of, he walks in the building. We start walking the floors, just seeing everything, and he was like, I can't believe this. He said, I can't believe this. He said, any seller that does not come to this is stupid. He swore before he said stupid, but because it was so overwhelming for him. And every single seller that ever comes with us has the same reaction. It's a game changer. So you just got to do it. We take care of everything. It's an all-inclusive trip. We pick you up from the airport. It's a 10-day trip. We attend phases 2 and 3 of the Canton Fair. We do factory tours and special business excursions. So last time we've done Alibaba. We've gone to Alibaba headquarters. We toured Shein headquarters. We did a mastermind with the top 150 Chinese sellers. That was really interesting. So we always do unique business excursions. And then, of course, we also do tourism. My goal is to help you understand China, help you experience it, and not have to worry about anything. You get to show up, you get education, you get access to all my courses when you come along. We do pre-trip training where we teach you about negotiation and all of that, so that you come and you're prepared and you get to have this really cool experience, and you get to pay for your trip in so many ways. So anyway, if you're interested in doing that, you can head on over to amazingathome.com/China. We're going again in October. It will fill up fast. Our October trips are always really popular. So definitely join us. It's worth it.
Great. Miss, I completely agree with you, Amy, I normally go to China once a year for my product. And, always I calculate, on the first day itself, you will find a product or product variant of the one that you are selling, and you'll make like X on what you just spent on the whole trip with just one product on the one day. That's always, it happens to me all the time. It's amazing. A lot of people are missing out literally by not going to China. It's amazing. It pays itself off. That's great. And I will put all the links that Amy just mentioned on the show notes. And Amy, do you want to give any other details about your websites and how people can find you or the services that you offer?
Sure. Thank you so much. So we are at amazingathome.com. And what do? We do education, consulting, account management for Amazon and TikTok sellers. And of course, if you're developing a product, and overall business consulting, marketing, that's what we do. We can help you with your overall business. Feel free to stop by with free services on our website. So we've got our free listing review. We also have a free TikTok shop review. We're just happy. We have a ton of blog content. We've got SOPs. Every time in my business that I forgot how to do something like, how do I create a variation listing on Amazon? I just would create a blog post about it with step by step. So when I forgot how to do it and I had to do it again, I would just go back to my blog post. So we have lots of great blog content there and everything. We have a great resources page. So if you're looking for patent agents, if you're looking for other resources, people that we trust, know, like, and trust, you can go to amazingathome.com/resources. But yeah, so all of our upcoming events are there, China trips, everything like that. You can also connect with us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Our tag is @amazingathome. And yeah, thank you so much just for having me.
Thanks a lot, Amy, for all those advice. I know you know a lot of areas within the business, inside and out, from experts, sourcing and branding and everything. We can keep on discussing a lot, but we are limited with time as well. But you put some great advice. I appreciate that. And again, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.